In today's Leeds news, Elland Road to move forward if concerns are met. Bijol aggression praised with strong call to be made. Piroe to stay beyond January, and Rutter's mixed feelings on Leeds clash. Morning folks, welcome to the Leeds View, Friday the 31st of October with your Leeds United news. One more game to go before the next international break. Last night we did the stats pack, which is a short enough video which just covers the team news for both sides, stats, data coming into the game. There's some interesting statistics to have a look at of when Brighton concede goals and when Leeds United scored their goals for this game, which could play a part in that. You can check that out from last night if you want it. Outside of that, we've got a little bit of news to get stuck into today. We'll start off with the update on yesterday's Elland Road discussions. Yesterday, Leeds City Council met to discuss the transport blueprint issues before Elland Road could move to the next phase in November. According to reports from yesterday's meeting, council officials are happy with the proposed redevelopment plan and happy for it to move forward as long as the transport and parking concerns are alleviated. The first phase of the redevelopment of Elland Road will see a partial demolition of the west stand before then redevelopment work starts, followed then by the second phase, which will be work around the north stand. A progress report said that the planning application could be decided next month in the November meeting of the council's plans panel, and they had this to say on the topic. Further work is needed before the impact of the development on the highway and transport network can be fully understood and mitigated. During yesterday's meeting, the panel was told that the travel plans for the project aimed to see no increase in traffic flow or parking around Elland Road and no issue with congestion. One issue that has potential traffic concerns is the M621 motorway, and this is basically due to people getting off of buses and getting out of their cars and walking along the motorway into Elland Road, and it's not necessarily something I've done myself, I don't know, on a couple of different occasions. When it gets close to kick-off, people do that. So, yeah, they want that sorted because that is a safety concern as far as they're concerned. There were 78 public objections locally to this, but the council did also receive 1,041 letters of support for the project. The report says that significant planning was needed to avoid any delay and stopping the development moving on to another season beyond this. But Leeds Murray Eisenberg says that he is confident the plan is sufficient to alleviate any concerns. Leeds now will go into November knowing that they've got one more meeting before they get the green light on the redevelopment of Elland Road, and then shovels in the ground come the end of this season. It is the closest we have ever gotten to a redevelopment of Elland Road. So positive news yesterday coming out of that council meeting. The concerns are valid. They were expected though, so Leeds are ready for them. So they'll move into the next phase. Well, hope. Let's move on. Onyeka Bijol received praise for his performance last week in the Premier League debut, but a big question for this weekend is Bijol or Struijk. Both players offer different elements to Leeds United. Bijol's defensive solidity along with his aggression is a key element for Leeds defence, but Struijk, his playing ability and ball work coming out from the back has been really important to Leeds in the early part of this season. With Struijk now over his illness and a fully fit squad available for Daniel Farke, it'll be interesting to see, does Daniel Farke revert to his preferred 11 or will Bijol keep his place in the starting 11, assuming that Daniel Farke does in fact have a preferred 11. BBC and former Leeds United player Aidy White was speaking after the game last week, and he praised Bijol's aggressive style after last week's game against West Ham, and he said the following. He was very good, he was aggressive, he was good aerially, and Callum Wilson did not get any chances from him, even though he came on and mixed it up a little bit in West Ham's game. It was physical when Wilson came on, and Bijol was comfortable with that. In terms of on the ball, 95% of what he did was good and sensible. He made a couple of sloppy mistakes, but I don't think you can ask questions about that because he has been out of the side for a long time. Yes, he had a couple of international friendlies, but it's not regular minutes and he's not in his full rhythm. So overall, I was pleased. We heard Daniel Farke yesterday talk about the self-criticism that Tanaka put on himself, and Farke said he shouldn't do that because, again, similar to Bijol, he wasn't in his full rhythm and isn't yet, and it will take a couple of games to get to that. But the sloppy mistakes that were mentioned could also be said of Pascal Struijk. He's done some very good things this season, but has had the odd moment of sloppiness. But Daniel Farke, with a fully fit squad, has a big decision to make in two key areas, that central defensive partnership as well as the centre midfield with Tanaka or Strouk. Does he want to go more defensive? Does he want to go more open? And that will be key to see. But it will be an interesting one to see what Daniel Farke does now that he has a full deck of cards to play with, at least in the current deck of cards that he owns. But we'll see what happens. Personal preference, I'd like to see Bijol maintained in the squad. There's a lot that Pascal Strouk offers. They're both very good in the year. Pascal Strouk is very good on the deck with the ball and a little bit faster than Jakob Bijol as well. But yeah, interesting to see what he will do. Let's move on. Let's talk about Joe Piroe. And Joe Piroe has found himself in an incredibly difficult position after finishing as the Golden Boot winner in the Championship last season. A change of formation for Leeds that doesn't play into any of his stronger attributes and has led to speculation again about his future. Daniel Farke said last month that Joe Piroe was the best finisher that he had worked with, but Piroe's stronger in a two-man strike force or even coming on late in games in a number 10 position, but definitely not his strongest position at all. Leeds have a tight PSR situation according to Managing Director Robbie Evans, so people have suggested that Piroe could be the likely one to move out in order to free up money and space for a new addition on that right hand side. But Graham Smith on the Inside Elland Road podcast earlier this month said that suggestions that Piroe should be given a chance in this side were utter madness, mostly due to the fact that he doesn't fit the current system, and the hold-up play that Leeds need is very, very important. And Joe Piroe, with all of his positive strengths, doesn't hold that one. But none of this is Joe Piroe's fault. According to reports, though, over the last couple of days, any suggestion of a sale of Joe Piroe in January are said to be wide of the mark, and Leeds plan to keep the striker beyond the January transfer market and do believe that he does have a part to play in the squad this season. Team Talk claimed that Leeds won't sell Joe Piroe despite his limited minutes, and should injuries occur to the likes of Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Lucas Meche, then that is when Joel Piroe will be very much needed for Leeds United. It's probably a sensible decision given the injury CVs of both of those two other strikers. However, what about the player himself? Will Joel Piroe be happy with that role at the club, waiting for his opportunity to get into the side? There was summer interest in the player from the Netherlands that could re-emerge come January, and at that point Joel Piroe himself might be the one to decide that he wants to play football at this point in his career rather than waiting for opportunities to come to him, because we've seen throughout the course of this year and last year, Daniel Farke can be quite slow to change things in his side, and Piroe might find himself sitting on the bench for the bulk of this season. So this will very much come down to be a player decision, I reckon, come January. But yeah, it's a tough one for Joel Piroe. It doesn't fit the system, and it's a real shame because he is a really good finisher, and right now Leeds are not scoring huge amounts of goals, so it would be nice to have that player there to do that. But as of right now, it doesn't appear that that will happen for Joel Piroe, but we'll keep an eye on what happens. And he could have a point to play this weekend against Brighton as well. But we'll move on. Talk about the last story of the day and the week, and it's Georginio Rutter. And as we mentioned yesterday, Georginio Rutter could line up against Leeds United tomorrow for the first time. And the number 10 has said he has mixed feelings about this encounter. Georginio has been told by his Brighton manager that he needs to improve certain elements of his game and has to deliver more output, and it's needed, especially considering the situation they are in right now with several of their first team players absent. But Rutter has admitted that he has some anxiety around facing Leeds United, and speaking to the Argus, Rutter said the following about the reception he's likely to receive. "I've no idea. But I understand in football when some fans are angry because you leave a team. I understand it a bit, but it's football, you know. I was loving Leeds, I was loving my teammates, and when I said bye-bye to them, I was very emotional because it was a very hard decision. It will be great to see them, and we will see what happens." I don't think the reception should be pretty bad for Georginio Rutter. I don't think a lot of the decision to sell him was his call. Leeds United had his release clause activated. Leeds had missed out on promotion, needed the money from a PSR perspective, and they accepted the deal, and off went Georginio Rutter to Brighton. So this was a slightly different situation than maybe Chris Somerville, who wanted that exit as quickly as he could get it. Rutter had played for Leeds at the start of the season and seemed pretty happy at Leeds United and wasn't pushing for a move away from the club. But he was such a fun player for us to have, and personally, I think we missed that type of player in our squad. We've got a very workmanlike type of squad right now, and we're missing a little bit of personality and a little bit of fun in the side. But there's no bad blood for me when it comes to Georginio Rutter. I'm not sure what everybody else thinks about that situation. But yeah, just take a handy tomorrow, Georgie, and everyone will be fine with you as well. And maybe sit out the one at Elland Road as well. The more players like you that don't play against Leeds, the better it will be for the club moving forward as well. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting match tomorrow. We covered it on the stats pack last night. They're missing a whole host of players, and Leeds have got a fully fit squad. Will Leeds go at them in the first half? Could be a really, really important factor in this game. Leeds scored the bulk of their goals in the first half, and Brighton conceded a huge amount of their goals in the first half as well. You can get all that detail and data over on the stats pack on the live tab on the channel as well. You can check that out if you want it. Outside of that, we'll be back tomorrow morning over on bigup.com for a watch along of the match. You can join us there. We'll have the instant match reaction afterwards. The game on Saturday on YouTube, and then on Sunday we'll have the player rating and the breakdown of any goals that are scored in that as well. Don't take it too seriously. Ratings are all subjective and a bit of fun. So yeah, you can catch me on Saturday live and on Sunday then for the video for the ratings and the breakdown. Outside of that, folks, enjoy the rest of your day and your weekend, and I'll talk to you soon. See you later.